G'day and welcome back. Today I want to talk about, well, it's going to be a follow-up to my last video on desensitizing. Because there was one part of desensitizing I did not mention in that one that I think is pretty important. So I'm going to talk about it today because it's an aspect of desensitizing where desensitizing has gone wrong. Now, either it was done wrong or it just turned out wrong. Both can happen. And I'm talking about a shutdown horse. And I'm going to talk about what the phenomena is and a little bit how to diagnose it and kind of how to deal with it. So bear with me here because this is all part of desensitizing, and it's when desensitizing goes wrong or if it's done incorrectly. And one of the ways that it is done incorrectly is a process called flooding, where you provide so much stimuli to the horse that it feels its only defense is to simply shut down and stop reacting. And I'm going to tell you a little bit how that works. It's a natural system in animals, quite often referred to as learned helplessness, which I don't think that's a correct term for it because it's not something they learn. It's something the animals just have. And you can go on YouTube and watch videos of wild animals hunting and killing and eating their prey. Not necessarily in that order, which is what makes it really disgusting and disturbing sometimes. Because what will happen is in the wild, a predator will take down its prey. And even though the animal is hardly even wounded, at that point it will stop fighting. It'll quit trying to get up and run away. It won't fight back. It'll just lay there and quite literally let itself get eaten alive. And that's a very disturbing sight to see, but that's what animals do. And horses have that same instinct in them to do that. And that's when they become shut down. If they get so overwhelmed by a situation where they just kind of resign themselves to their fate and quit reacting to the situation, that's when they shut down. And that's basically exactly what happens when a lion is hunting a deer or something like that. Takes the animal down, the animal will quite literally lay there and let itself be eaten alive. It's not a pleasant sight, but that is what animals do. And so I want to talk about this phenomena in horses because a lot of times people think, hey, I got this bomb-proof horse that doesn't react to anything. Well, the fact is it's not reacting to anything because it's shut down. And it's a common problem in horses. You might cause it, or you might get a horse that is already like that. And so I want to talk a bit about that. I want to show you how to diagnose that and what to do about it. And that's why I got the halter on that one there. She's going to be my demo for the day. This one here, she just decided she wanted to come in, so she's here, passed. So we're going to talk about it a bit. You'll have to give me a minute. I'm going to change cameras because I need both hands free to do this. Video quality will not be quite the same with the other one. You'll notice the difference, but it doesn't really matter. You're going to get to see how to tell if your horse is shut down and basically what to do about it. So bear with me. Okay, back with you. What we're going to do here is, this is how you basically diagnose whether or not your horse is shut down. Because a mistake a lot of people make is, they'll have the horse standing still, they'll be throwing things over the back, be it the flag or a rope or whatever it is, and the horse doesn't react. So they think, oh, cool, the horse is good with it. Not always. It may have actually frozen and it's just standing there, not moving. So what I'm going to show you here is how you can check to see if your horse is shut down or not. Now I'm going to ask her to go in a nice walk. Nice calm walk around me. There we go. And then we're going to start throwing the flag over her back while she's calmly walking around. Now, if you're doing this and your horse all of a sudden freaks out, gets worried about it, well, you probably got a shut down horse because they will tend to not react to things when they're not moving, but as soon as they start moving, that's when all hell breaks loose. Now, you can do both directions, and she's not reacting at all. See, this is what you want, but if she freaked out, started running away, or running in circles, or backing up, or getting nervous, that tells you that there's a problem. Now, how to deal with it? Pretty much the same way. You have your horse calmly walk around you, throwing something over its back, whatever you're doing, your usual desensitizing, but while it's moving. And then when the horse stops freaking out about things and continues to walk nice and calmly, then you got her beat. So it's really the diagnosing and the how you work with it, pretty much exactly the same. But that is an aspect of desensitizing that I didn't talk about in the other video, and it's just as important, is determining, because I've actually run across it in person where I've had horses that we thought they were good with everything, really good, didn't react at all until we asked them to move while doing this, and all of a sudden, boom, we had a problem on our hands. And that was when we discovered, the horse isn't so good with things, because that is an often mistake that we make. And there is a guy that I can't remember who it was, said a safe horse is always a quiet horse, but a quiet horse is not always a safe horse. A horse that's shut down, basically you're riding a time bomb, and at some point it's going to explode. And it may take days, weeks, maybe even years, maybe even quite a few years actually, but at some point that horse is going to freak out, and you're going to have rodeo on your hands that you do not want. So that's something that can happen, and that's one of the things you got to look out for when you got a shutdown horse, is that, well, you got to determine that it actually is in fact shut down. That's an important part of desensitizing, is it has to be willing to be okay with these kinds of things while it's moving. This is not stuff that you can do just standing still. I recommend always doing it while moving, as part of making sure it's working. It's a good test. You can always do it with any horse, whether you think it's shut down or not. Always try it. Get it to walk around while you're doing this stuff, and make sure that you don't end up with a shutdown horse. I will caution one though. I actually had one I was working with one time, and she started taking it as this was a cue to start walking. Yeah. Also, when the horse, when the horse finally stops freaking out, something else I would recommend is when you stop desensitizing and when the horse stops freaking out, which is the normal way of doing things, don't have the horse stop walking. Otherwise, pretty soon it'll start thinking that when you stop desensitizing, that's a cue for it to stop. And you don't want the horse to mistake cues. You want the cues to always be clear. So that's one more thing, is when you're working with the horse, make sure it understands that it's the goal is to get it to not freak out about things, not to stop moving, which is quite often the goal when desensitizing, is you'll do this stuff till the horse stops running around and freaking out, and when it stops, you stop desensitizing because then it's calmed down. Well, that's not always the case. Sometimes that's when it's shutting down, and this is how you test for it. So if you do that, have the horse walking around nice and calm, and you do your desensitizing like that, and when you stop, have the horse continue to walk around calmly, and then it doesn't connect the two, and you can find out whether or not your horse is shut down and whether or not you need to do anything about it, because quite frankly, it's like riding a time bomb. And having a horse move while you're doing this stuff, it's a world of difference. A good example is a horse that's being started and saddled for the first time. People put the saddle on, think the horse is okay with it, and no reaction at all, until you ask it to move, and then all of a sudden the rodeo's on and it starts to buck, and that's basically the difference between a horse that's standing still and a horse that's moving, is whether or not it's going to react to what's going on around it. So same kind of thing. I could give you a few other examples, but I don't think you need like I said, when they start moving, that's when you're going to really find problems. So it's always a good idea to check things out. Like I said, even if you don't suspect your horse is shut down, test it anyhow. It's a good way to do it. I always like doing it with all horses, and just to check and make sure they're actually okay with things by desensitizing while moving. And it doesn't have to be the flag. It can be your rope. It can be whatever you use. This is just what I happen to have with me today right now, so that's what I'm using. So there you go, folks. One more aspect of desensitizing is identifying a shutdown horse and dealing with it, because it is a fairly natural phenomena in animals to do this sort of thing, so you always have to be watching for it. And desensitizing while moving is always a good way of making sure that you don't have that problem, because even if desensitizing is done right, horse can still shut down, and sometimes you might get one that's already like that when you get it too. So there you go. A shutdown horse and desensitizing, that's how you diagnose it, that's how you fix it, pretty much exactly the same. Have a good day.